Well, it's 5 o'clock. Let's get this going. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Scott, have you heard from Mary Ann?
Excuse me?
Have you heard from Mary Ann?
She's in Hawaii.
Hawaii? Okay. She's on vacation this week.
All right, with that, I'll make a motion to approve the September 9th regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates at 5 p.m. Tuesday, October 15th. Note that is a Tuesday because of the Indigenous Peoples' Day holiday. Monday, October 28th. Town offices will be closed on the 14th for what I just said, Indigenous Peoples' Day. And any citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify Town Hall before noon the Thursday before the scheduled meeting. All meetings are held here in Town Hall and by Zoom. Zoom information can be found on the town's website, plymouthnh.gov. My only comment, I wanted to call out, we had a successful election a couple of weeks ago, so that was well run by the town clerk, moderator. We have a moderator kind of in training, assistant town clerk, all the supervisors of the checklist. There's a lot of work to be done to do all of that and to pull it off without it being any sort of thing. So big thanks to all of them for their work there. With that, I'll give it to you, Scott, for the town manager's report.
Thank you. To start off, grants 23-24. The town of Plymouth was recipient of many grants throughout 2023 and 2024, totaling $3,107,799. $2,700,000 came from the EDA grant. All others, totaling about $400,000, came from departments. Nice job by the departments for their work on securing grants throughout the year, and we continue to look for grant opportunities for infrastructure projects that are within the capital improvement program. Highway Department summer maintenance, the updated road surface management evaluation, including crack sealing of roads starting in 2024 based on priority. I'm happy to report that the top three priorities, Reservoir Road, Ledgeside Lane, and Thurlow Street, were completed the week of September 9th. They will finish up with top coating the following roads on September 30th, Claybrook Drive, a portion of Emerson Street, and a portion of Beach Hill Road, as identified in the report. Some exciting news about Loon Lake Road culvert. We've been advised by New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services that we'll be receiving additional funds for the Loon Lake Road culvert project. On October 15th, 2024, at 5:15, the Plymouth Selectboard will hold a public hearing in accordance with RSA 3195-B for the acceptance of anticipated funds from the state of New Hampshire through the American Rescue Plan Act Fund, ARPA, in the amount of $337,645. The purpose of this grant is to replace the culvert on Loon Lake Road for the purpose of improving hydraulic capacity, geomorphic compatibility, and enhance aquatic organism passage by installing a new 16 by 6 precast concrete box culvert. We had another call this morning, and there's going to be an additional $12,000 added onto that for a total of the Loon Lake Road culvert project. We received $51,893 towards the project in 2022, and now we will receive a total of $350,000 for a total of $401,538 towards this project. So really good news. I'm glad we went after that when the ARPA funds were being disseminated and others weren't participating in the grant program. So very successful for us. Howland Street project, summer of 2025. We met with State of New Hampshire DOT Estimate Review Committee on Friday, June 28th, with regards to additional funding for the project as discussed in the public hearing held earlier this spring. We held a proposed action public hearing on Monday, August 12th, at the Select Board meeting where the proposed action plan was presented to the public to inform them of the direction the project is headed. We are currently waiting on approval for additional funding from New Hampshire Department of Transportation through the Governor's Council. We did hear back today from Kevin Russell, the representative from New Hampshire DOT, that it was going in front of Executive Council in November. So we should be hearing shortly on that. Union negotiations for the Plymouth professional firefighters in accordance with RSA 273-A. The Town of Plymouth representatives and Plymouth professional firefighters will conduct an opening meeting for union negotiations for the 2025-2028 contract period on Tuesday, September 30th at Town Hall. We will establish the ground rules for contract negotiations and work on a tentative timeline for meetings. Economic development, per our conversation at the Select Board meeting on Monday, August 26th, I've started research on an economic development consultant. I've asked for information through the New Hampshire municipal managers on consultants that have been used and the success the municipality has had, as well as sample RFP that could be used for this process. I am awaiting resumes and portfolios from 2 firms that have been recommended, William Neal Cannon Finance and Development Consultant and Stuart Arnett Development Group, in hopes that we'll have those sometime over the next week. Town of Plymouth property transfers, as an update, in the months of June, July, and August of 2024, there were a total of 23 property transfers in Plymouth, reported by Grafton County Registry of Deeds. In most cases, the property sold for 30 to 50% higher than the current assessed value. So we're not seeing that trend slowing down in the town of Plymouth as of last week. Pirate Party update, the town has participated in 2 meetings with Plymouth State University with regards to the handling of the possibility of a pirate party to be held on Sunday, October 13th. The Town of Plymouth Police Department will have a strong police presence to include New Hampshire State Police, New Hampshire State Police CERT Team, and Grafton County Sheriff's Department. We are currently working with the off-campus landlords and have a meeting scheduled with them on Wednesday, September 25th. Our goal is to deter any parties occurring at off-campus housing and on any street, road, or sidewalk in the town of Plymouth. Town Attorney John Radigan has drafted letters to Plymouth Vegas, Barstool Plymouth, Barstool Sports Incorporated, and Meta Platforms Incorporated, informing each of these groups that a pirate party will not be allowed in the town of Plymouth, as there will not be any permits issued for this event. These letters were sent and acknowledged on Thursday, September 5th. Local Foods of Plymouth Fall Festival. The Fall Festival in Plymouth will be held on October 20th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Green Street and will feature food trucks, local farms, local bands, and children activities. An update on downtown construction. You may have noticed that in the area of Groovy Noodle, there has been a large puddle that forms over the sidewalk near the southern side of the building. This will be repaired by Greene's Construction by adding a catch basin to carry the water away. This repair should be completed over the next couple of weeks. Plymouth State University updates, and I'm sure we'll hear more tonight from Jess. But I met with Jess Dutel on Monday, September 16th for our monthly meeting in place for a separate CCC meeting. The CCC meeting will take place tonight at 5:30 during the regularly scheduled Select Board meeting, and we will discuss updates from the university that will be presented tonight during the meeting. On Monday, September 9th, I met with Plymouth State University Student Senate with regards to culture and care for the community and creating an open line of communications. Additionally, we discussed the pirate party and the town of Plymouth positions. And one last thing that was added today is we did receive a resignation from a Plymouth State University police officer, Shannon Hubacher, who held an appointment through the town of Plymouth. That will be rescinded, and she will no longer be in that capacity as of September 30th, 2024. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Scott, which is the portion of Emerson Street that's getting a top coat?
coming down from Highland to,
Rogers?
thank you, Highland to Rogers.
Okay.
The part that most needs it.
The worst part as it is now.
Yeah.
But simply a top coat to get us through until next year's construction.
That's where the severe drainage issues are.
Correct.
Any other questions for Scott before we move on? Not technically close enough. Let's do the appointments. We've got, we have two appointments that seem very directly related to each other. A letter from the Conservation Commission to, well, to Ted and Scott, I guess. Hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to share Justin Legacy's letter for appointment to a full position on the Plymouth Conservation Commission and Norm LeBlanc's change to the alternate role. Commission convened on August 20th and unanimously agreed to the following changes. Justin Legacy will assume Norm LeBlanc's full position and complete the current term. Norm LeBlanc will take over Justin Legacy's alternate position and fulfill his remaining term. Please feel free to reach out if any questions need further information. Melissa Eulery, co-chair, Plymouth Conservation Commission.
So I'll make a motion to approve both changes. One, Justin Legacy to Norm LeBlanc's position as the full position, and Norm LeBlanc to Justin Legacy's alternate position.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Go. That one was easy. Well, honestly, this purchase order should be pretty straightforward too. Scott, you want to talk us through this?
Yep. So, as we have in every other year, Joe went out to bid for road salt to get this purchased and in place prior to our winter months starting. Looked at two vendors, Morton Salt, which we've used in the past few years, in Eastern Minerals. The difference in price is about $3 between Morton Salt and what we have researched and found based on Joe's feedback and other communities surrounding us is that Morton Salt is a better quality and more dependable on the delivery of the salt. So what Joe is asking for in the line, we currently have $60,000 as we have appropriated for the 24-25 budget. And Joe is asking to purchase 600 tons of road salt for a total of $48,840
They deliver it.
delivered.
Have we worked with Eastern Minerals before?
We have, and it was a bad quality of salt and the lack of dependability on delivery.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of 600 tons of road salt from Morton Salt Incorporated for a sum total of $48,840.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. About $50,000 worth of salt. Okay. I'm gonna pretend it's 5:15. All right. It's 5:15. The Plymouth Board of Selectmen are holding a public hearing in accordance with RSA 31:95-B for the acceptance of unanticipated funds from the Center for Tech and Civic Life Grant Program. The funds are restricted to planning and operationalizing reliable and secure election administration in the town of Plymouth in 2024. The grant was applied for by the Plymouth Town Clerk and was awarded to the town in the amount of $20,000. Amy, would you like to talk to us a bit about this grant and what we're doing with this?
Sure, I'm happy to. So, first of all, thanks for having me. There is a couple other clerks in the area, Meredith and Ashland, that also applied for this grant, which is how I found out about it. It was very easy to apply for. It seemed relative to everything that we do. We have to purchase a new machine to be used in 2025. I bought an additional poll pad for the next election because it will be busy. It's going towards paying our poll workers, paying our supervisors the checklist. So essentially it's money that we could use towards all those things. And I thought it was a good idea. So I applied and we got awarded 20 grand.
That's great. Neil was wondering, what is the Center for Tech and Civic Life?
So it is run by, sorry. Different piece of paper. It's run by the government.
Which government?
I'm gonna let you know. I'm just gonna let you know right now. Hold on one second. I just read it. DHS. It was established in 2017
In New Hampshire?
for the government, and then New Hampshire is part of it. And it's specifically for rural communities, which Plymouth falls into.
Sure.
Homeland Security. Is there gonna be any increase in security?
No, there'll be a police officer just like there is standard every election. Luckily, we live in a super safe community.
Haven't
so
received any threats or anything?
absolutely not.
That's good.
No. And New Hampshire has one of the most secure elections
I know.
countrywide. So
Bob Clay.
it's just, I'm not worried about it, just as additional funds that we can use to help. So,
That's great.
yeah.
When are we going to hear about new voting machines?
So the state is going to be giving us a certain dollar amount towards new voting machines. I anticipate coming to your meeting in October to ask for the money, which is already built into my budget last year. And the state is providing, I believe, $3,500 towards the purchase.
Nice. And then some of this money also will go towards that?
Yes.
Is that
Yep.
the
So
intention?
essentially, it will cost us nothing to buy a new voting machine.
That's fantastic. I know in the past we've talked about, we have the one, and it has been very reliable and a lovely voting machine for us for very, very long. Would we consider buying, given that we have the extra funds, would we consider buying two to have like redundancy there, or really is one what we need for our community?
So as far as I think, one's been what we've had, and it seems to be okay. We don't get, besides the presidential elections, having one machine is sufficient for all the other elections that we run. So I don't anticipate that we would need a second machine.
Okay. So
And
we'll
there's two
stick
different
with that plan.
options that the state has vetted, which I'll be bringing to you to go over the pros and cons of each one, because ultimately it's the decision of the governing board that makes the decision about which one gets purchased. So
I assume you'll come with a recommendation, though.
I will, of course.
Could we keep our old machine as a backup?
No, because it's
That's
going to be
end of life, right?
It is end of life. Correct. Yep.
Okay.
You know if HAVA funds bought all these, or at least they should have bought all of them?
All the voting machines.
Yeah.
So that's where the money from that the state is giving us is coming from. You can use it to purchase poll pads or to purchase a new voting machine.
Okay.
So yeah, the state is at least giving us something, which I was really psyched about,
For sure.
because that doesn't generally happen. So
Yeah, they've been very tight on the HAVA funds,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
My last question, is there a time period on expending this 20,000?
So you have to use it by the end of the year. However, you can write to them to request to have it be extended.
Okay, great.
Amy has done a tremendous amount of research and really a lot of upgrades to the town clerk's office, of which we should be very proud of, but Amy should be very proud of with Melinda on the upgrades that they've done and the research they've done over the past year, so to speak. So, nice job, Amy.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't do it without support from the community, so grateful for that.
All right. Any public comment on our hearing? Looks like nothing from the public. All right. Closing the hearing at 5:20 and bringing it back to the board. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll make a motion to accept the unanticipated funds of $20,000 from the Center for Tech and Civic Life Grant Program to be used for planning and operationalizing reliable and secure election administration for the town of Plymouth in 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Zach, you do have a couple things in your signature file. I don't know if you want to do those real quickly or if you want to wait till the end.
Yeah, I was looking. We have the Campus Community Council update scheduled for 5:30, so got 9-ish minutes. You want to hit those?
Should be able to do those real quick. You
Yeah.
have those in the folder beside you? Or I have those. I'm
You
sorry,
must have
Zach.
them because
I have those.
only
So
have
the
one
first one, we have a land use change tax for a property on Texas Hill Road, taking .25 acres out of current use, which results in an increased tax, land use tax change of $3,000. I have that here for you to sign. And then do you have the appointment for
I
Neil?
do. So I have in my signature file the appointment for Neil to the alternate LRPC commission that we voted on last time, but we didn't have anything to sign. Send that one that way. Just the one?
That's it?
Wow. Is that because Ann's been gone, or?
Terry didn't have much this week, so.
Don't complain, it's a good thing.
It's just gonna add up, that's all.
Thank you. Well, that took a whole 2 minutes.
The response letter?
What's that?
The response letter, maybe? The other ones seem to be,
Yeah, the other ones could go long. Let's talk about
Change.
that.
We need to vote on this.
Think you can cover that in 7 minutes?
What's the letter?
Yeah.
Maybe, you can pass the letters out, or have we?
No, that's the revised letter.
Who have you got to sign on to it?
Okay.
So there are 3 towns. Basically because it would like widen the legislators that we could pull in. So we'd have 2 additions. Oh crap. I think I got superintendent on there. I hope I did. There it is. So this is about the 4th letter that was actually sent from the town of Plymouth to encourage Commissioner Cass to, move up the date.
Yep.
I didn't get the initial thing that actually Neil mentioned, that initially it was supposed to be 2027. It would have been the end date, but now it's 2035 or 6. So they're not going to perform any engineering on the Tenny Mountain bridge, covered bridge.
No, the interchange.
Yeah, the intersection there, and until then. So this letter basically kind of requests that they, and you know, the ludicrous thing is that they're waiting for that one fatality that would kind of put them in motion. And, but we've had a lot of accidents, we've had, you know, serious injuries, people brought to the hospital. So it's been accruing a lot of expenditures for just people, you know, using that road and trying to make a left-hand turn generally on Fairgrounds, not Fairgrounds, but Smith Bridge. So it basically reiterates what we've kind of already had. And then the end, at the, either move up the date or approach Highway Safety Improvement Program funds, which are given to conditions to provide like immediate help for, basically just for, the problem that we have. Generally, the Department of Transportation moves very rapidly to get the work done when we do have a fatality, or just accidents with injuries. And so looking at the program, I think we have also a copy of that. And I had a conversation with Lakes Region Planning Commission, and we can go forward with them and also DOT to simply, attack it by throwing money at it and get a quick. And I think it's very similar to what perhaps the project that was going to be built on Smith Ridge Road, and they were allocating like $130,000 towards the improvements that they thought that would kind of fix that intersection. And maybe if they actually, gave that to Joseph, we could probably, use that as well. But in any event, take a look at it, make comments, and then I've already talked with Rumney, and they're in favor of adding on to this. So the three towns would be Hebron, Rumney, and Plymouth. And Hebron's also expressed support. I've talked with their police chief, and they put me on the select board's next meeting, which is next week. And just get them to sign it. Well, actually, like approve it first, see what comments you might want to make. And then just copy, Senator Prentice, Senator Innes, Senator Gendro, and Councilor Warmington, Kenny, the three reps from Plymouth, and Shanna Saunders from LRPC. And Rumney and Hebron don't have a rep. He resigned. So, I guess.
I think this looks great to me.
So what I will do is I will work with Rumney and Hebron after Bill has attended their select board meeting, get the signatures, and we'll get this off to Commissioner Cass,
Excellent.
as well as all the other that are CC'd on the letter.
Now,
Thanks, Bill.
just sort of realism, we expect they're going to tell us the same thing, right?
They are. We've got a wrinkle in there that just move it up 2 years. It's 10 years down the pike. So, and then also throw some money at the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And whatever they can offer, they'll have to investigate first. Maybe lane change, or get rid of the suicide lane, or put some Jersey barriers up. They can come up with, some answers that may help, or should help.
There's a lot of pedestrian traffic out there.
Yeah.
And the strip of land that people try to walk on is less than 2 feet wide between the guardrail and the white line. I've seen people jump over the guardrail when, cars come down the road that are maybe going to hit you.
We've been talking about a sidewalk for, quite some time, and basically it'd be another, TAC request. It would be another 10-year plan, so once we're able to get it into the plan, it could be up to 10 years before it actually, gets remediated. Such is life with LRPC and and DOT. But I agree that, we should have, the ability for passers, people to walk up and down, and
At what point do we submit that request?
you talk to Joe, well,
Are we only allowed to
unfortunately,
have one in the system at a time, or can we have multiple?
you can have multiple, yeah, and that's prioritized. This upcoming year, there's not gonna be a request from LRPC. They already have a couple that will be considered. Last time this was done, we were number 2, actually we were number 1, and then we lost the first place to Laconia, and now we're like basically number 1. It's gonna be kinda hard to knock us out because they got the same, plans there, and we're gonna be able to, I guess, or there's like a bike ped issues that we'll be also jumping on that as well. So that's an additional plus when they consider, our application. So should be a slam dunk.
It should be. There's been no other applications for it, so.
Good.
Thanks, Bill.
It is-
Looks like consensus from the board.
Bill, once you've had that meeting with the select board in Hebron, if you just want to let me know, then I will get everything executed and sent.
Okay, be good. Thanks.
All right, let's take it back to campus community council updates. Give you the floor.
You're going to give me the floor? Well, we have a number of representatives from Plymouth State in the audience. I don't know who's going to talk, but we have plenty of seating up front, and
Jess has got this.
we were sure of that.
Good evening. So thank you so much for having us. Pleasure to be joined by President Burks and Provost Bowditch in the audience. There he is. And my name is Jess Dutel. I serve as Director of Student Life. So would you like me to begin? Would you like to?
Sure, go ahead.
Yes? All right. So I'll jump right in with updates, but then hoping that we can answer any questions that might exist and engage in some dialogue as time allows. So first, just thank you for this opportunity to join you this evening, and thank you for everyone who came out and those tuning in via Zoom and watching on YouTube. I do want to start by thanking Scott Whedon for the partnership. I think we've come a long way in the past couple of years with the collaborative efforts, and appreciate Scott joining us on center stage for new student orientation, engaging with our student senate. So we are incredibly grateful as an institution. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank Amy Lee, our town clerk, and our election volunteers for hosting new voter registration on campus since this past spring. So one thing that we were really excited to introduce during our activities and job fair during the first week of the semester was new voter registration. And we saw a lot of enthusiasm for our students coming out to take advantage of that. So overall appreciation for the town's partnership. So in terms of student life, I feel fortunate to work with such a wholehearted team of individuals because they really make giving updates in a forum like this easy. Student life at PSU encompasses 3 areas, so student experience, campus recreation, and community impact. There is a handout, there are a couple handouts in the back at the table. There's one specific to student life with a QR code that takes you right to our co-curricular platform called the PAW, which stands for Plymouth Activities website. And there you can see all of our clubs and organizations. And you can also see all the programs, events, and campus-wide traditions that we are hosting throughout the academic year. It will show you up to a month in advance, but if you play around and select the dates, you can see the entire academic year. There is a lot going on in student life, and regardless if we're hosting a volunteer project or intramurals, a club meeting, it's all about cultivating a sense of connection and belonging among students. So we really appreciate the support because it's incredibly important for us that our students not only feel connected to campus, but certainly Plymouth as our hometown. So First Student Experience facilitates and supports anything from new student orientation that happens in June, and then again Panther Days in August, to campus-wide traditions and events like Ski Day, Spring Fling, all of the facilitation of our clubs and organizations, the Office of Military Services, and our weekend programs. I think it's really important to note that we have weekend programming every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night throughout the entire academic year. So Thursday's movie night, bingo happens on Friday, and that is really popular. Our students love bingo. We have had an average of 120 participants every single bingo night so far this semester, which is exciting to see. And then we have Plymouth Saturday Night Life, which obviously takes place on Saturdays. We have karaoke, open mic night, PSU student bands, sip and paint, sip soft drinks and paint. So a lot of great activity happening on campus throughout the weekends. And so far this semester, we've seen over 2,700 points of participation, which reflects over 1,000 different unique students. So we are really pleased to see that level of engagement. It is exceeding pre-pandemic levels, and so we're really heartened by that. Campus recreation facilitates our fitness center and the hub, club sports, intramural teams, our esports facility, and the outdoor center. So far, in just the first 3 weeks of the semester, we've seen just over 7,000 check-ins in the fitness center. So that's a huge engagement point. Last year, we had a total of 626 students engaged in intramurals, 1,100 students engaged in the esports program, and 115% increase in rentals through the outdoor center. So many ways for students to recreate, but also get involved and support their overall well-being while exploring the natural environment that surrounds us. And so many of our students come for that very reason, because this is a beautiful place to be. The Office of Community Impact partners with over 100 local nonprofit and community-based organizations throughout our region. They facilitate service learning opportunities, which is a part of course curriculum, so volunteerism that's required by faculty members. And they also host community engagement opportunities. We have weekly programs with both the Bridge House and the PEMI Youth Center. Students are going to the Bridge House and preparing and serving meals with Bridge House residents. And they're engaging youth in arts and crafts at the PEMI Youth Center. We also host community-wide cleanups with the town of Plymouth, with the Parks Department, and our friends on the Beautification Committee. Most recently, just this past Friday, we had 17 students who helped clean up the areas around the Welcome to Plymouth signage. And then we have a community-wide cleanup scheduled for November 1st, which happens to be the day after Halloween. We are also programming throughout the Halloween day and that evening as well. Last year, we had over 500 PSU students volunteering on an ongoing basis throughout the community, and that represents over 2,500 volunteer hours to the region, which is significant. This year, we are gearing up to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the Angel Tree Project, which collects gifts from the campus community, students, faculty and staff, and local community members for over 300 local children and youth, partnering with the local schools, local agencies, and youth-serving organizations. We also have the Off-Campus Federal Work Study program, which engages 60 to 70 students throughout the region working with our nonprofit partners. They're getting paid for the great work that they're doing at the Rec Department, at Peace Public Library, with PYC, with Katie, and a number of our other nonprofit organizations. And the Office of Community Impact oversees the Student Support Foundation and the Community Cupboard Food Pantry in the Hub. So far this year, we have given out grants, financial emergency grants to students, 15 of those in the first 3 weeks. And we have just under 70 students accessing the Community Cupboard Food Pantry on campus. They do that by key card access with their student ID. That way we're able to emphasize the importance of a community of care and supporting one another and reducing the stigma of need. And so, at the same time, we know that need is significant because of how many students are on that list. And then we are also planning a collaborative food drive for Plymouth Area Community Closet and also our on-campus food pantry that will take place in October. I also wanted to share there's another flyer back there for advancement. Our advancement team and alumni team, they are hosting homecoming the weekend of October 4th through 6th. Information about all the local businesses who are helping to support that effort on the back of the flyer. We have our Loved Ones on Campus Parent and Family Weekend on October 18th through 20th, so we're excited to invite the family members of our students to the Plymouth area that weekend. And then if anyone is interested and just loves data, I brought a couple annual reports from Student Life from last year, which really goes into depth in terms of our engagement, what we are seeing, some qualitative data about what students are saying. Happy to share that information as well. Lastly, our Vice President, Joanne Landers, Vice President for Enrollment and Communications, provided a brief update for us to share. First, Marketing Communications is working to create a stronger brand awareness of PSU as well as updates to our website. And then the admissions team is working really hard on numbers, and we are already showing an increase over the last 2 years in terms of registration for open houses. We just had our first open house this past Saturday, and it was very successful. A lot of great feedback coming from prospective students and their families. Undergrad applications are up 50% from the same time last year and up 32% from this time 2 years ago. Interest in doctor physical therapy program is up, which is heartening. And then we will know more tomorrow, which marks R+30 for us. Our registration and census data will be released tomorrow, and we will have a better idea of where enrollment stands. So that is what I have. Anything that I missed?
No, except maybe I would have said there's athletics events
Oh, yep.
each night and then all through the weekend. Particularly October's a lot of stuff going on, so it's pretty busy. So in fact, we got something every weekend, I think. Just to give you a little sense of where enrollment is though this year compared with last year, it's down about 160. Okay, that's the number I have. And I think it was the transition between Marlon and Joanne that's affected most of that. I don't see any sense that we're less competitive or anything else. So we'll just see how it plays out in the long run.
Did FAFSA have anything to do with that, or?
For us, it did a lot. If I would not have wanted to switch leaders in that area during the FAFSA crisis, because it put us 4 months behind. And for a lot of our students who are on the edge of, trying to support their families and have been through the pandemic, and now there are opportunities for them to work. I know parents have a very hard time making that decision sometimes, and I think in some cases it's resulted in, well, we know that because they've talked to them, or they've made the decision that it's time to take a year or two off, try something else. Which isn't a bad idea. We often find that students, when they come back from having done that, if they come back, are very successful. Unfortunately, about 50% of them don't come back to any school. Although, other than that, I think you covered an awful lot. So, Jess has been doing a great job.
I mean, the one thing I'll say is we are still collaborating with the university. We are covering some of their shifts when they have open shifts, and in lieu of losing a police officer next week, we do bill them a detail rate for covering the shifts. Not as high as we do on a normal detail because we are using a Plymouth State University vehicle to do the patrol. And it's not every night, but it is quite a few shifts of which our officers have stepped up to work with Plymouth State University and the police department to cover those shifts to make sure the community is safe.
How large is that police force on campus now?
3 full-time officers.
That's
They
in
had
addition to the chief, or?
That includes the chief, the deputy chief, and the sergeant, and I,
We've got two safety, I think it's two
Yep,
safety.
and we also have campus safety. So
Correct.
it'll be 3 full-time now that someone is moving on.
I got a dumb question.
There's no
So,
such thing.
yeah,
No.
yeah. So this dumb question has to do with the Echo House, which is now then the Diversity Center, and now it's the Center for Ideas?
Yes, so the center was just renamed. So IDEA stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and
okay.
Access.
All right, so it didn't change focus.
No, but it kind of, it put more emphasis on access than it did on people were taking the whole thing the wrong way about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really about providing access because those students who actually do complete, and we're really working on that, I think we got up to about 50% now, if they do complete, they're real contributors to the economy. And so it's often for those students an opportunity, as for many students in rural environments, an opportunity to move to a whole different environment as far as economics.
I'd like to take a moment, if there are members of the community that would like to ask a question, if you'd come up to the podium and state your name and then ask your question.
Another dumb question. So what does a provost do anyway?
Oh, what does a provost
We've been
do?
wondering that ourselves.
So,
Up to the mic.
okay, so a provost is, it's an old-fashioned word with ancient roots in academia, but a provost is the chief academic officer. That's the way to think of it. I'm in charge of the academic enterprise. So Dawn is over us all, and then the chief academic officer is the provost. So work with the faculty, the students, the programs, make sure they have the support network they need to drive the academic enterprise forward.
Thank you.
I'm a team member,
Yes, absolutely.
even though I joke about it.
In the town manager's report, he gave us an update on some of the things that the town is doing to help defer the late October party. What's going on campus to help with that deterrence effort?
We've got, oh boy, we're hiring police officers for that. I think we've got the CERT team standing by on both accounts. We've got all of us that are gonna be there that day. We're trying to create alternative activities. We've got some buses that are going different places. Trying to work with the students to see how we can channel this a little bit more than we have. You know, we keep trying to bend it a little bit each year. Personally, I don't have a problem with having them dressing up and pretending you're pirates. I have trouble with the drinking and the carousing and the things that go on at pirate parties. So I think the way it's working now, we will probably end up closing campus to the public on that day. That doesn't mean you can't send those that come into the campus, but we're going to try to keep the ones that come from outside the community, because that's really where we end up with a lot of the issues. And so that's one step, and I think, Jess is trying very hard to suppress the whole pirate party thing itself. I've got a meeting with the students Wednesday, I think it is, after the new trustee visit. And I think what I'm trying to do is get the students to take pirate party and do something with it other than just making it time to get fallen down drunk. There's a part of me that says, when I went to school, we used to have, big events and mixers and really enjoy them, but we didn't drink all the time we were there. And that's really the issue we've got. I don't mind hosting things on campus, but I mind all the drinking that goes on. So that's what we're going to try to really get under control. And we're going to try to break it up. That's what we'll try to do. But we don't want to You see, if we go too far, we'll push it out into the community, and we don't want to do that. So I'm going to try to figure out some middle ground, but I'm not sure of everything yet, but I'm pretty sure about trying to keep all the people coming from outside the community, and we're publicizing that in a lot of ways. So we'll have that message out anyway about not having
How,
people on campus.
in terms of the outside influences, certainly you can restrict guest passes and those sorts of things, but and parking, once the event is happening, if those are flowing from off campus to on campus, is there a strategy there?
We'll take the ones from off campus to on campus if that's what happens. I mean, I know Scott's trying to break it up off campus. I think that's good. We're going to be trying to moderate it also on campus and break it up if we can. But what we have the biggest problem with, and where it gets out of control, in my view, is sure, we're taking care of the guests that are not going to be there, but also just people that hear about it and come. So we're going to make sure that the message gets out that the campus is closed to the public. So, and we're allowed to do that in a case where there's safety or life-threatening events on campus, and this is proven to be a life-threatening event.
And I think it's important to emphasize that the most harmful and destructive behaviors we've seen have been from outside individuals who are not our students. And from a prevention standpoint, we're going to work hard on the communications. So President Burks mentioned that there will be a comprehensive message coming out from his office, and then follow-up communications coming out from student life, coming from res life, coming from athletics and other areas on campus. And from a student life standpoint, one thing we heard a lot last year from students, especially students in recovery circles, was that there weren't many outlets for them. So, like President Burks mentioned, we have 2 coach buses going to Boston. We're getting some students who wouldn't participate anyway, or those who might be thinking about it but could be persuaded otherwise, to go do something fun in Boston. We have a boat tour going out, we have the aquarium tickets, and/or students can just sign up to have transportation to spend the day touring the city and then return safely back to campus. Well after what potentially could happen happens, but hopefully doesn't happen. We also will be fully staffed. We are staffing our Hartman Union building to make sure it is a safe and healthy, sober space.
Hikes.
I'm sorry?
Hikes.
We have hikes going on, a lot of healthy activities to do that weekend, and we will be programming throughout the entire weekend.
And that'll be all the athletic events that we normally have.
Yep. Making sure that when possible, we are taking into consideration how to engage large numbers of students. For example, our fraternity and sorority life new member education is happening Sunday, October 13th. So making sure that we are taking a really comprehensive look at what's happening, and making sure also that we are fully staffed to support what does happen.
I'm kind of stuck in the middle here, because on one side I've got the lawyers and the insurance companies saying you can't have this kind of stuff on campus. On the other side, I want to support the town and not create the situation we had before last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to find some middle ground as best we can through this process. So I think we can do it. It's always a challenge each year.
It seems to me that there's always been some kind of organizing of the Pirate Party. Have you communicated with these organizers?
Well, to the extent that we can get the messages to them, yes, we have. We had a meeting last Student Senate. It's televised across the campus. We know that certain students on the Student Senate also have connections, and that's where we worked last year, as a matter of fact. So, yes, we can't get exactly to who it is because it's always an unknown and it switches. So you're never quite clear where the heart of it is, but we've made it kind of clear, I guess, that one group that has been, and Scott's taken care of part of this, and you did last year as well, is Barstool and Twin Vegas and some of those places play a coordinating role in some ways. And they also bring the DJ up, so it's kind of, I'm hoping that some of those students graduate as well.
Are you doing anything with the athletic teams, like a mid-morning mandatory practice?
Kim's put out something, I think they got something going on for all the athletes, or has sent them home if they're not going to game or something going on. Not all of the time do they listen to that, but she's
Yes.
really working on
Yeah, just thinking about groups that are able to
it. Right.
organize
No.
more broadly.
It makes me think of Weirs Beach and Hampton Beach and some of the things that happened there.
Yeah.
Or Keen's Pumpkin Festival,
Yeah.
and any of these
Yeah.
sorts of things that have
Yeah, the Pumpkin Festival.
turned into real trouble in the past.
Well, it's the fine line you walk of creating the situation that occurred in Keene and also trying to get this under control, and also worried about the safety of the students, so you don't want to drive them off to Secret Beach or something like that, because then if something does happen, we're not there to monitor it. It's a very tricky situation.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
we've worked collaboratively this year. I know that we've had 2 meetings, but there's been many meetings that have taken place within the university, as well as with the police department, the fire department, and Plymouth State University Police, as well as Holderness will have some involvement in this as well. So I can say the meetings have taken place. We've tried to brainstorm every scenario that we possibly can. I can tell you that our police department will be in certain locations early in the morning, as we did last year. So, I think the 2 operation plans are established and are in place. And hopefully, we get through this without any major incidents or situations that arise to a point where we have to use additional forces to control what's taking place in our community.
Is that what it is for
Do we have a plan to watch the key parking facilities that they may exploit?
They're going to be closed.
Nobody wants to see a tragedy.
No. There was a question from the audience.
Scott, in
Come-
your report, you mentioned a landlord meeting on
Yep.
Wednesday. I have not had any communication about that and don't know about that, so I bet you might want to make sure you're communicating to more than just the big 3.
We didn't set it up. Don Hunter set it up at his office, as we always have prior to.
You should make sure that Don Hunter is communicating it beyond the big.
Yeah, I can mention it to him. Absolutely.
I have no communication about it. I've got nothing in my calendar about it.
Nate, do you remember who was on that email?
I don't know.
Okay. I will check with Don tomorrow. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions for the university? Any questions from the university for us?
No, I just do want to say it has been great collaborating. I think Scott has set an example that I can't say enough about. And in this case, the Pirate Party has been working with us, along with the police force, and the fire department, and everybody trying to do what they can. So it's good to be in a community like that.
All right, well,
Thank you for the
Thank you.
time.
Yeah, thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Inviting us.
You can come anytime.
Door is always open.
But next time, come with a
Jess.
PowerPoint. I'm just kidding.
Wait, Jess, were you going to finish up with your stand-up you had promised?
I was telling jokes earlier. but
Yeah.
Maybe next time.
Okay,
I do
next
have
time.
to Thank you for your time. We have a student senate meeting, so.
That's right, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Politics don't stop. Thanks for the question. No one ever asked.
I wanted to help you out.
All right, where did we leave off?
We're at Conservation
Thank you,
Commission.
Nate.
What's the provost's name?
Nate.
Nate.
Nate Baldwin. Nate Baldwin.
B-O-W?
Do you know how to spell the last name?
I can find out pretty quickly.
Bowditch?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure, and I'd rather not get
I'm
it
not
wrong.
positive.
It's close. That's going to be close, though.
I'll look it up while we're waiting for our next invitee.
All right, next up is going to be Plymouth Conservation Commission discussing the Oxbow easement.
We'll just talk the easement first.
Yeah, go ahead. Actually, if you want to present the NRI, the best thing would be to have your attendee on Zoom do that.
Aha, okay.
Yeah, it's much easier.
Much easier.
But
Okay,
let's start with the Oxbow.
let's start with the Oxbow. Thank you for, this is a long overdue meeting since I've been the chair, but I've just learning the ways of Plymouth. So I'm glad to have an opportunity to answer questions. I understand you have several about the Oxbow. So, fire away.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with what's the status of that project and the easements and.
Currently, the conservation easement is signed by all the various components, all the parties involved. It's multifaceted because it's an L-chip grant that basically funded it. So it's signed, sealed, and delivered. The town of Plymouth is not a signatory on that.
Not a signatory, but we do hold the risk and liability of that easement as being the town, and the Board of Selectmen has that authority. So when this first came through, we.
Could I just, hang on just a minute. As I understand it, as executory interest holder, the way that it's written, what happens here, well, first, let's back up a bit, and I'll give you a little bit of my background, because you guys don't know me. Except you do, Bill.
A little bit.
I moved to Plymouth 5.5 years ago. Previous to that, I lived in Romney for 38 years. I was on the Conservation Commission for many years, can't tell you how many. I am currently the co-chair with Melissa Yearlery because the chair, and I've been in this position for probably close to 2 years. The chair said she had to step down, and nobody was willing to step up, and I've been in natural resources since I graduated from college in 1975. So that's been my career track. I worked for the Forest Service as a GIS specialist for 15 years. I worked for Georgia Pacific. I worked with John French and Sam Hall on updating and assessing property as part of Eastern Forest and Land Management. I came into them as a forester, but ended up making tax maps for Sandwich, for Groton, for several towns in southern, they were out of Maine. So I'm very familiar with the whole assessment and tax map property thing. And after I retired from the Forest Service, I went to work for as stewardship director of the Squam Lakes Conservation Society. And during that time, I put several presentations on at the National Land Trust Alliance, for the National Land Trust Alliance. And then when I left them, I was a contractor working for Lakes Region Conservation Trust, for Vermont Land Trust, for Upper Valley Land Trust, and for the National Land Trust Alliance. So, and I continued to do presentations at their national conference. So, I also, for 15 years, was a GIS, taught GIS at Plymouth State. I was a faculty member at Plymouth State and I taught GIS and then 2 or 3 land conservation classes. So given that history, it seemed logical, even though I'm not that familiar with Plymouth. I've lived in the area since 1978, and it seemed logical that I would take on being the chair because there was nobody else willing to do it, and I have the most background. And Melissa, I said I won't do it alone because I'm not, kind of age out of that kind of thing, but my passion is still there. So Melissa Eulery said that she would co-chair it with me. So that's where I come from. So I have the land trust, the land conservation background with my work with National Land Trust Alliance and SLCS. So I think that's helpful in this conversation. Yeah. So to correct you, all due respect, Scott, I checked about Plymouth's, there's many ways that you can be executory interest holder in a conservation easement. And in that situation, the executory, should a land trust go under or decide to close up, it goes to the Attorney General, Attorney General, who then goes to the executory interest holder. If we're signatories to that easement, then it's assumed that that party will hold the easement. They've made that agreement by signing on to the easement. If we're not signatories and it's written a certain way, we have the closest I can come to it is right of first refusal. So in this case, because we're not signatories, the Attorney General comes to us. They say, do you want to take the easement? And Plymouth says yes or no. So that's...
I guess my problem with the whole piece is that we took this to our town attorney. Mm-hmm. Our town attorney proposed language to make it favorable for the town of Plymouth. I think where the problem lies, Joan, is that the conversation didn't take place before the execution of the easement. It would have been nice for the Conservation Commission to come in, have a conversation with the board about what was taking place, let the board have input into the easement, and move forward from there. The board may have been absolutely in agreement with it, but I think the lack of communication, that the board didn't have the opportunity to have a conversation about it, and there was nothing done with the language that our attorney provided to Lisa in the Conservation Committee. I think that's where the problem lies.
Right.
It's a done deal right now. The easement is in place. I don't think it hurts us in any way, shape, form, or manner, but I think in future situations like this, it'd be nice for the Conservation Commission to come in, have a conversation with the board, iron it out, and then go through it that way. And I know it wasn't you at that point of what was taking place, so I place no blame on anybody. It's just, I think in further means of opening up conversations and transparency, it's nice to come in and have that conversation with the board before something is executed.
I agree 100%. In fact, since I've been on the Conservation Commission, Scott, I've never been in a situation or observed, because what I know about Plymouth my knowledge about conservation commissions and their dealings with the town is Rumney. In Rumney we didn't have a Scott Whedon, and we didn't have an Abraer, so we just would, and we didn't have a select board member on the Conservation Commission. So had I known or observed differently previous to this, what I want more than anything is to have a collaboration with you guys, with the select board.
And we have found that out. With you coming in and meeting with Ann on several occasions, that's more communication than we've ever had with the Conservation Committee.
Well, and the thing is, we're all in this together.
We
And-
absolutely are.
And everybody on the Conservation Commission is a taxpayer. So, and this, and in this particular Oxbow situation, when I came onto the Conservation Commission, this was going on. It had been going on for 5 or 6 years before I even moved to Plymouth. So, in this situation, we went through, I was sort of participating in some of the Oxbow project, but I really didn't understand it, and I was focused on getting Plymouth an updated NRI, because I thought that's the most important thing, and that's where I really have the knowledge. And so then when Holderness and Plymouth, or primarily Holderness, got this L-CHIP grant, and Holderness went to SLCS, Squam Lakes Conservation Society, and had them, the initial conversation was that Plymouth would hold an easement. And personally, from my history in land trust and conservation in land trust, land societies, I don't think it's a good idea for town to hold conservation easements at all. So when I was down at the L-CHIP acceptance ceremony, I asked Barbara Richter, who's the head of the Conservation Commissions, I said, what's your feeling about that? And she said, it never works because the select board are holding the bag. We're advisory to you. We're an advisory, element. You guys are the ones holding the bag. And if you aren't the ones who participate all along, and if you guys aren't the ones that were there when it happened, then it shouldn't be, it's really not a good idea. But I wasn't about to come back to Plymouth and say, you guys shouldn't have easements at all. But in reading the history, there are 2 or 3 easements that Plymouth holds. So I sort of assumed that there would be, that you guys were kind of into it. So when it came down to us holding an easement, I was the one that said, I don't think that's a really good idea. But when SLCS came into the picture, I said, I don't feel comfortable being a participant in the Oxbow committee right now because I used to work for SLCS, and I don't want anybody to get the idea that I'm making decisions based on some past allegiance, because I know everybody there. So when I had that conversation in the office with Ann, I went back and called SLCS, but I knew they had a big meeting and their executive director was retiring, so I left a message on their machine. And then I was called and informed that that was not my place, that I hadn't been to enough meetings to be the person, to be the spokesperson for this, and that all communication should go with the people who have attended all the meetings. I did jump in on 2 meetings that the people, Melissa and Lisa, were in, because they called and said, you know about this, you know more than we do, could you jump in and make? So at that point, that was like, I talked to Ann on a Friday, this was a Sunday night, I said, fine, you're 100% right, I don't have enough history or knowledge to be involved. I haven't been to all the meetings, so it's all on you. I will leave it to you, defer to you. So when it came to so then I did call SLCS because I had left a message on their machine, or they called me back, and I checked on a couple of things. And one of them, there were a few things that concerned me in the lawyer's language, in our lawyer's language. Specifically, I have to say I'm confused by this because it's a executory interest holder, and it says the towns of Holderness, Plymouth, Ashland shall seek to identify acceptable. It kind of makes it feel like that it would be a co-executory interest holder. Was that the intent?
That was the intent.
But Holderness can't be a co-executory interest holder because by law you can't hold an easement on your own, on property that you own. And Holderness purchased all this property. So that, in the last 2 years, they've changed the law so that if a land trust owns property and another land trust has an easement and that land trust bails out, then that land trust can also be the easement holder, but that's a very rare instance, and that's not this. So that can't happen. Holderness can't be an executory interest holder. And I was also concerned about Conservation Society organization. There's such a thing as a conservation organization, and some of them are called conservation societies, like Squam Lakes Conservation Society. But there is no such thing as a conservation society organization. But, once again, I wasn't the spokesperson, so when the meeting came around, I said, this is confusing to me. Either we keep it, we're either in or out, the way it is. We're either executory interest holder, which is basically the way it's written, right of first refusal, or we get out completely. And the commission decided that in order for us to have enough teeth in the game to justify the monies that Plymouth has put in there already, and also, should we be concerned about the way that SLCS and Holderness are handling things that involve Plymouth, like where they park and this, that, and the other thing, that we are more than just a silent partner, that our name is actually on here somewhere with zero responsibility. Unfortunately, I didn't take the opportunity to explain this to you guys ahead of time, or I would have. And now, I think it would be worth our time at some point to sit down and go through all the easements you have, because I'm making a spreadsheet. This is what Plymouth owns. This is what Plymouth has an easement on. This is what Plymouth is an executory easement holder of, because it is, seems to be the paradigm with Plymouth is to be involved in this level. So the one meeting I was at, I asked the lawyer at SLCS, I said, is there any need for the town of Plymouth lawyer to be involved? He said, no, there's no responsibility whatsoever. That was the one that I was called into when I was out for a hike. So I didn't jump in and step on toes.
No, and I think, we're at where we're at right now. We have the
And I
easement
think
for
what
it.
this language is the safest, because Ashland, the other thought I had was, and I did say this, how would, say you guys were the select board and SLCS, let's put ourselves 100 years down the road, you're the select board, you would have to go to Ashland Select Board, because there is no Ashland Conservation Commission. So that would be an Ashland Select Board knows little about this, except that their land was purchased by Holderness, land in their town. They have never been involved in the project, so I think it would be more of a burden to the Select Board to have Ashland involved. And Holderness, I don't think there would be a legality there of being executory interest holder.
I think moving forward, the open line of communications that we just spoke about,
Welcome.
and I think it would be useful to come back to a select board meeting with the easements.
Well,
that
Greg and I
Plymouth
talked
has.
about it.
No,
Right,
I
Greg?
think that,
He's trying to get work done while he's doing this. Yeah, we talked about doing that, but this isn't the meeting for it.
No,
I just
no,
wanted
I
to,
think
I just
later.
wanted to make sure that you guys understood. I don't think there was any ill intent on anybody's, there was any ill intent from anybody. And I think where it stands right now, because I've checked and double checked with other, I have a good friend who works for the conservation law firm in Concord, and this is, the way it's worded, the fact that we don't have a signature on this puts Plymouth in the best situation. So, and I apologize for the lack of communication, and now, when somebody said, well, Scott should have been brought in, I said, I didn't. I sent you the RFPQ because I thought you'd be a good person But from now on, I realize that, you know, that we're collaborating. So I think it's a good idea to collaborate on everything. Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So does that clarify all of that?
Yeah, I think that helps with the legal status. What's the overall status of the project? What's going on over there?
Oh, well, so right now, there's, it's finished. SLCS has, there's a thing, when you close on an easement, you have to have, it's costly to do a conservation easement. So they have deep pockets, they paid for it. It's good in their portfolio, it's outside of their normal watershed that they cover, but it's good for their portfolio because in a conservation portfolio, to be an accredited land trust, you have to have a certain amount of land that's got public access, and they were short. And the people at SLCS understand the value of that property, and Larry Spencer did a great job of highlighting the value of that property. But at the same time that they closed on the easement, they started a fund in SLCS called the Chris Buckley Fund to honor Chris because he was one of the ones that got this going. In the very beginning, he was one of the ones that pushed it, the primary pusher, and that fund will take care of the maintenance. And people have been calling me, what's happening with Oxbow? Are we gonna have to, take care of it? Or, are our dogs gonna be allowed? And they've called and contributed to that fund. So that fund will take care of the maintenance and cleanup, et cetera. So communication is still coming to the Conservation Commission about that, and so I'm directing them to SLCS. And it is, Secret Beach is a problem, but it's not our problem. But we are very, very much partners. And there's gonna be a kiosk, and there's gonna be the rules, and there's gonna be this, and it's much better, because the NIMBA people are very involved, in keeping that clean, the bike, they're a partner too. So there are a few things that have happened since school started, but it's 100% better than it was. And SLCS is good. They've got like I said, they have the Chris Buckley Fund now. So, and that's another reason that we wanted our name and to honor the work that Chris did, to at least have Plymouth's name on the easement without responsibility. So should anybody call any select board or Scott regarding Secret Beach, have them call Squam Lakes Conservation Society. And the last person that called me got on their volunteer list, and so she's just gonna volunteer. And then we also we have a great conservation commission right now. We have a high school student whose high school students go out and clean up. Yeah, so it's good. And then we have the geography club is now doing all kinds of work with us, and they've jumped in to clean up mostly Walter Newton, but they're gonna do that too. So
That's great.
I feel good about it. And believe me, in the conservation world, that property could be a nightmare. But there's so many parties that it's good.
Is the access point off South River Street?
The discussion right now is, there was conversation with having the college give 3 or 4 parking spaces. So that's a focus right now. Now that the easement's closed and all the parties are involved, how do you get the parking situation cleared up? But the college is charging some people, like I said, haven't been directly involved in those meetings and that, involving the parking, but the college is charging more than we as a Conservation Commission were willing to pay, but now that it's with SLCS, that'll be happening with SLCS to try to enhance the parking, because that's not a good situation.
Is there any other access point?
It's kind of a weird situation over off North Ashland Road, but I'd have to go talk to, they just switched executive directors at SLCS, so Emily and I are gonna have a meeting probably in the next 3 weeks to talk about, next steps for parking.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't, I imagine Lisa will be involved too. I don't know. I haven't talked to her about it. I've kind of just out of respect for the time and energy she's put in for 10 years, I said, yeah, I agree, you're the person who should be running the show. But I did make sure that everybody recognized that I'm the co-chair, so it's my job, it's my responsibility. But I'll keep you guys posted, through Ted. We won't come and use all your time like this.
We're always happy to see you. Any other questions about the Oxbow from the board?
I have no questions.
All right.
Is Greg gonna be,
know what
talking
I'm
about the
gonna
next
do?
issue, or?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna segue now to talking about the disposition of the remaining funds that were allocated from the PCC Capital Reserve Fund to the project, to the Oxbow project in 2022 by a warrant article.
so Greg,
Article
hang on a
number
minute,
5.
Greg. Should I have like a 4-minute presentation about updating this NRI that's 20 years old. Want us to do that first? And then we can talk
Probably
about
would
the
make
monies?
sense.
That would be
Yeah,
good
that would
background,
make sense.
yes.
Greg, I'm gonna text you the website.
So she's hoping you'll
And-
share it on the screen.
The website
Wow, okay,
that
I can do this.
You can.
Give me a moment.
And you're gonna pop it on, oh, can you?
Oh, yeah, sure, I can do that.
He can't be here because he's in the middle of,
Could you just give me the URL to it?
yeah. Well,
Should have it.
yeah, but anyway, I'll send it, and meanwhile, I'll fill everybody in on what we're doing. See, you're gonna have to type that in, sorry.
Okay.
Or I can email. All right, so you guys have a lot going on, so I will. Here it comes.
Got it? Yeah, I'll have to type that in, so you talk while I'm typing.
So Plymouth NRI is, as I first understood it, we didn't have one, but we have one in 2005, and it's a good one. It's a really good one.
So can I stop you for a moment?
Yeah.
For our audience, can you tell the audience what the NNRI is?
Oh, right, I keep forgetting that we're on TV. An NRI is a natural resource inventory. It is the RSA that puts conservation commissions in place. One of the primary jobs of a conservation commission is to create an NRI. What it does is inventory the natural resources, just like you'd inventory a store, from farmland to wildlife habitat to, well, any natural resource. Older NRIs, around 2005, it involves narrative and mapping that are dovetailed together. Older NRIs have hard copy maps that the town has, and that's what Plymouth has. Now the NRIs are all GIS driven, so that the planning board and you guys, the select board, and other town members can overlay data layers, and you can say, okay, for example, the hotel. The hotel is on a place, if you were to look at the NRI as we've created the data layers and made it into a GIS, made it through GIS. You could see that the hotel was gonna be in the highest quality wildlife habitat as well as the highest quality farmland. So this kind of planning is really gonna help with the planning board. So since I've become chair, I've reached out to, well, since I took on the NRI, one of the things I recommend is to bring in community members. So I made a committee of myself, Ina Ahern, whose high school class has taken our whole NRI and made it digitally, GIS, she put it onto GIS, and John Christ, because the master plan has like 24 areas that the Conservation Commission should be involved in, so he's on the NRI committee. Amy Valmagna from the college is on the NRI committee, and Rob Cormier is on the NRI committee because he represents overseeing those lands of the rec department. So we have this committee that is helping me, because everybody on the Conservation Commission that seems to have big jobs. They do. So anyway, so here's where we stand. Ina put this together to make it easy for us and for the town to see. And this is why we need an updated one. So if you could flick through that, Greg, for us. There's the RSA that says we should have an NRI, blah, blah, blah. Carry on. It's the foundation of the town's conservation plan, should be used for planning board, and that's why John's on the committee. A lot of NRIs are part of the master plan, and should be updated every 5 to 10 years, as ours is 20 years old. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, it should also be said, I don't know if it's in the presentation, that an NRI is often almost a prerequisite for applying for grants nowadays.
Exactly. Without an updated NRI, the grants that we could access are not available. Thank you. All right. But the NRI is good. So we went through a process of thinking that we didn't have to pay someone, we could do it in-house, but it's too important a document for people to do as volunteers and high school kids to do. But there was no doubt that we had to take what we have and bring it up to date. So here's what the NRI looks like with farmland and dense softwood stands. It's a standalone map. That's what we need to update. Here is what it will look like if we put the parcels on.
Parcel.
Yeah, right there. So you can put this parcel data right over this other information. Turn everything off and put the habitat ranking down below at the bottom. Yep. See, that way you can, so this one will be, it's GIS, you guys understand that, but the contractors that I've talked to work with, what is it, CAI that does our maps? They've developed a relationship, so that's part of the deal. Okay, moving on. So this is how we came to where we're at. We reviewed the NRI, we put a survey out to prioritize our concerns within the PCC. We explored all the different ways we could get it updated that were fiscally responsible. I don't have to read it all. We itemized the needs to create an RFPQ. We wrote it, reviewed, and sent out a review to contractors that are friends of mine. I wrote it and sent out the review. And then also we committed to putting in our budget funds to update it every 2 or 3 years with a contractor. So now where we stand now is the RFPQ is out to 5 contractors, and we've capped it at $15,000 because that's what we think the most it would take, and if it has to be in a phased process, and that's what we have them could come up with the money for. Yes. So it'll be available on the PCC website, will be available to everybody, and we will have some public sharing sessions so people generally know what it's all about. So, to make that, so you guys know what we're talking about. So now we'll get into financing for it. And that's
Okay.
where Greg.
Is that where I pick up?
He's our treasurer,
Okay.
yep.
Right now, the PCC does have a fairly healthy budget. We have in total 61,600 and change across our various accounts. However, almost 10,000 of that is the remainder from the 2022 warrant article that allocated $25,000 from our capital reserve fund, the PCC capital reserve fund, to the Oxbow project. 25,000 was a nice round figure that we allocated as what we thought we should contribute toward a project that altogether is worth over $200,000. So our contribution relative to the town of Holderness is very small. Of that 25,000, approximately 15,000 was spent for a yellow book appraisal and some additional fees that I could probably find if I researched, but that predates my tenure as treasurer. I came on about the same time that Joan came on as chair. But long story short, we have a remainder of $9,760, which will probably be decremented a bit by legal fees that are still outstanding from the town attorney. So let's round that to, let's say, $9,000. Remaining in this PCC land purchase fund that was created by the warrant article. The language of the warrant article, I'll tell you right now, just to so everybody's aware of it. It was Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 for costs associated with conservation land acquisition and protection, including, but not limited to, establishing an easement on lands associated with the Pemmy Oxbow Recreation Area, and to offset this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of $25,000 from the Conservation Commission Capital Projects Capital Reserve Fund established for this purpose. That warrant article passed and the project went ahead. We have recently learned that the remaining balance of $9,760 minus the attorney fees will go back into the general fund.
Fund balance,
Yeah,
not general fund, fund balance,
on the fund
Fund,
balance.
fund balance?
which it
Okay.
already has gone into that.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
It did, yeah. But that's not that's not the same as the,
That's not our capital reserve fund for the Conservation Commission, right?
that's not, yeah.
No, so the $9,000 was leftover money at the end of
Right, so it went back to
2023.
the
So it
town.
went into the, yes,
Back to
yes.
the town.
So, for lack of a better term, back to the town, correct.
Right. Originally, the 25,000 did come from the PCC Capital Reserve Fund. And we had hoped that the balance would return to that fund. We have since learned that's not how it works with a warrant article. So we are wiser as a result, but we would like to appeal to the select board to consider allocating that balance of $9,000 to the NRI project with the understanding that it is for the purpose of establishing or land conservation and protection in the town of Plymouth for the reasons that Joan already described, that an NRI is almost necessary now to raise funds for land protection purposes. And it will facilitate our grading of land protection opportunities in the town of Plymouth. We're not sure what the process would be for this recovery of that $9,000 for our capital reserve fund, but we are appealing to the board to consider that.
So I can speak to that, is that for the natural resources inventory, we have placed in the 25-26 budget in the CIP, the $15,000 cost for that. That will be part of the 25-26 CIP plan. With regards to the $9,000, it can be handled a couple different ways. If the board chooses, we can present a warrant article in 25-26 town meeting to either withdraw that $9,000 from the fund balance to offset this new project, or a warrant article can be written to place the $9,000 back into the Conservation Committee's capital reserve account. So two ways that can happen depending on how the board wants to move forward with that. So it can be
Appreciate
done.
that, Scott. And I would like to say, and I think Joan would also agree, that we completely understand the financial situation of the town and the motives for wanting to be able to recover the excess funds. We're sympathetic to that.
Because we're taxpayers. Yeah. So CIP meeting,
The capital improvement program.
so that $15,000 that you just mentioned,
Yep. Currently, we're building the budget for 1/1/25, for 7/1/25. So we're in the process of going through the budgetary process. Part of that is the CIP plan. So what we've done after Ann had discussions with you was to place that $15,000 in the CIP to be raised and appropriated at the March 2025 town meeting to cover the costs of the NRI.
oh, that's awesome.
That is very generous.
So we have that in there now.
Yeah.
And if the board chooses, we can go one of the two ways with the $9,000. There's three ways. We can leave it in the fund balance, or we can have a warrant article that takes it out of the fund balance and puts it back into the Conservation Committee. Or a warrant article can be written to take the $9,000 and place it back into the Conservation Committee's capital reserve fund.
So in either case, no matter what, it requires a warrant article.
It would.
For the 9,000. The other's been, right. So our goal, overall goal, is to build our coffers up enough so that when properties around the town of high value, for example, people have been talking about Longview Farm and what that's worth if they make it into, a development that actually would financially impact Plymouth, because if it was houses that had hundreds of kids coming into the school, but we would have the monies to help them with an easement, because it's expensive to have a conservation easement. So that's what we did in Rumney. We didn't purchase land with our money because we didn't have enough. We didn't have any desire to hold conservation easements, and it was recommended to us and to me through workshops, et cetera, that we get enough money so when people say, this is a valuable piece of land, I don't want it, I want to protect it permanently, we can help with the baseline documentation report, the appraisals. You get two appraisals, one what it's worth with an easement, one what it's worth without an easement, and should something come up like like Longview or whatever, to start a capital campaign to get people to donate to actually purchase an easement, which means we would pay whoever, whatever their loss is, when you can either, people can either donate an easement and they get a tax break because they're donating value of the land. If the land's worth $1 million developed, you know, with a million little houses on it, without that, you lose a lot of value to that land, you know, a lot of commercial value. So you purchase an easement by giving the landowner what they're losing. Or they donate it to the general good. They donate the easement, they just give an easement, and that they get whatever it's worth taken off their taxes because it's a charitable donation. So that's what we want to build our coffers up for, but that's a hard thing to explain to the town. And our job is to, you know, express to the town that we're using our money judiciously and concerning ourselves with taxes. I mean, in the perfect world, we would love to have the $9,000 put back to where we could use it for these purposes, because we have been approached by landowners that have high conservation value lands that would be ideal if they had an easement. For the town of Plymouth, like I said, you get 25 house lots with 25 roads to plow and 25 kids in the school. It's more than you get back for the tax income usually.
So I think how we should move forward is through the budgetary process. Obviously, the department's budget, the operating budgets, as well as the CIP go in front of the budget committee. And we'll be able to explain that piece of it. But then when we start to build the warrant articles, is that having further conversations with the Conservation Committee, the two of you,
Yeah.
with regards to which direction we go on what type of warrant article we put in to move that $9,000 back one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I think that process takes place through the budgetary process, and we'll make sure, I've just made a note to make sure that we reach out and have further conversations as we develop the warrant for the March 2025 town meeting.
Perfect. Yes, that's ideal. Thank you. No. Okay,
Thank you very much. Yeah,
okay, you can go back to work now, Greg.
okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
Greg.
good evening, everyone.
Thank you.
See ya.
So Joan, does that answer the questions with regards to the finances to where we are today?
Yeah,
I think we've obviously established a great line of communication now, and
like I
we'll
said,
keep,
we're all in this, we all want the same thing.
absolutely.
There should be no reason that we're not.
And we'll
Yeah.
keep that open, and I think it would be a good idea if the board agrees to come in at a later time with all the easements that the town does have, because I don't know, I'm sure.
I would love to see that,
other
yeah.
people
Yeah, it's your
don't know.
response, I mean, yeah. I was
So-
looking through these and I'm like, oh, this is,
When you're ready to do that, just let us know, we'll get it on an agenda, and we'll go through that evening.
yeah. Great, thank you. And I do have to say, just to bring you guys up to speed, we have an amazing Conservation Commission right now. Greg, he's got a forestry degree from Yale. We've got people that we've got biologists, we've got a full commission and 4 alternates, 2 that have come off but don't want to really leave the commission, and 2 that are waiting to get on when somebody else gets off. And then I've been approached by 2 other people, very talented people, you know, that have backgrounds that, you know, put all of us to shame, that want to be on our Conservation Commission. So I tell you, if I were running an organization that had a staff like that, I'd be so excited. So it's really an honor to be on this commission, and to be, and I feel lucky to be the chair, even though at times I'm like, I don't want to do this. But now that we're like all on the same page, it makes me so much happier. And it's the same with John Christ. I mean, we're meeting at least once a month, but we're both so busy with our little jobs here for the town that we can't pull it off once every 2 weeks. But he's just keeping me informed of anything that the master plan could use specific to the NRI, so I can work with a contractor for that goal. Anyhow,
Once you express all the good things you're doing to the town of Ashland, and see if you can get them to reinstate their Conservation Commission. That's kind of a sad story. So,
Yeah, it is a sad story, and that was one of the red flags I heard with this wording from the lawyer. You know, and I don't think he knows that they don't have a, yeah, it is sad, but,
yeah.
but that's okay. That's, the fact that everybody on the commission has a very specific job and they're all too busy to help me with the NRI is a blessing and a curse, but I'm glad about it. I mean, it speaks highly of our Conservation Commission. Isn't that true, Ted? It's a great commission.
It's a great group.
Well, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
using
Thank you
all
very
that time.
much.
Yeah, and I'll be back in touch. Yeah, just call me
Okay,
whenever.
yep,
And we've gotten 2 responses from the RFPQ. So
Good.
that's good. Yeah.
Thank you. That takes us to Frank Miller and Plymouth's major street plan. Happy to have you joining us, Frank.
Frank Miller. I propose we do
Pull that mic a little closer to you.
I propose that we do a master street program for the downtown village commercial zone so that we can take all of the work that's been performed on Main Street with the utility upgrade, and of course our street and sidewalks are improved. But we have other issues associated with that Main Street. We have 16 streets in the downtown area. One issue with that is that 5 of those streets have multiple names. We have 6 street list name. One is from the Highway Department, which tells you where the street stops and starts and who owns it. The Fire Department tells you occupancy. Police Department tells you the number system. We have the counter detail, the tax map, and Google. Unfortunately, I've got them all, and when you put them all together, they don't agree. So our first purpose would be to get all of this, all of our lists together, get our tax map updated, or the counter detail. But in order to improve systematically our streets and ways, we need to do the inventory of their condition, the ownership, the dimensions of the street by ownership, and then go from streets, which is a vehicular, to parking lots and spots, which then provides us the pedestrian. And then we need to look at our sidewalks, walkways, and crosswalks. And a lot of this infrastructure is incomplete. We are trying to get our employees parking down on Green Street, but there's only 3 ways of crossing Railroad, and one is by the senior center that goes into the building. The other one is Bridge Street, and the other one is at the Green Street parking lot that goes to the Meredith Village Savings. There's no other official designated crossing of that. Everybody walks wherever they can, up through the bushes and up behind 8991, which is Newberry's, to get to Main Street. Obviously, this takes proper evaluation and planning, and then looking at other appropriate uses for the land that contained in a village commercial zone. And the whole purpose of this is the economic viability of Main Street. No use talking about developing any further development of the village commercial zone until you have the proper flow of vehicles and pedestrians that provide the economic viability of that area. That's the same issue that you're having with Tenny Mountain Commercial Industrial Development Zone, is that it does not have a proper street plan that covers all of the issues necessary that would allow development to happen. But considering the existing development that we have already in a village commercial zone, what we need is a systematic plan of how do we address each one of these issues, and then put it in a format that the capital improvement program can address it by a single plan rather than waiting for a multiple plan, which we've had. The Green Street Plan, 95, that was multi-millions of dollars. The 11 items that were on the list, 3 remain undone. And that is the railroad crossing at the senior center, the connection of Green Street to Route 3 down by water and sewer, and the parking system or parking garage, or there was a plan for a building where the highway department is. So the problem is, we had another plan in 2001 for the South Main Street development for addressing the issue, but it was a $3.6 million project, and the taxpayer can't afford that. So if we have all of the list of the streets that need to have sidewalk repaired or installed or painted, and it's $150,000 or whatever, I believe that would be able to move forward with a small project each year. And in the end of 10 years, we would have accomplished quite a bit, rather than waiting 50 years, 100 years to try to fix it all at once, which is very disruptive. So the other thing is to get the citizens and the business owners, the people who own the land and the businesses, as part of the process, so that they understand, and I'm sure it's been reinforced, that having a good street access to your property, your business, and parking is very helpful for business. When you have it all blocked off and you can't get there from here, they understand the financial viability of our vehicular infrastructure and our pedestrian infrastructure. And that's all I wanted to focus on. Even though I will say, walking, you should take a walk down Green Street and look back towards the buildings along the east side of them, and with all of those trees that are growing up through the power lines. And literally, it's just been ignored for 50 years now. I'm surprised that electricity hasn't gone out.
Where's that?
That's behind 8991. You look at all of the growth that's been, no one's seemed to have appreciated the fact that, you get all these wires up, all these trees up in the wires, and you get yourself a major rain or windstorm, ice storm. I can see some technical issues with power in Main Street. And but it provides us the opportunity to break down each one of the issues we have, like stormwater drainage. We've got several driveways on the west side of Main Street that already have dirt coming down from the property, and now that dirt is going out onto the sidewalk and the streets, and obviously that degrades a very nice sidewalk or a street. Highway department has to clean it up, but the biggest thing is stormwater drainage for that piece of property hasn't been completed. So we need to evaluate the stormwater drainage for the west side of the hills, say from the Fox Block all the way down to I think the old bank building has got theirs pretty well covered. But this is why a Main Street plan, in accordance with the RSA 674:9, an orderly methodology of evaluating, scoping out the amount of work, all of the players involved. Obviously, if you're working with the railroad, it's the state of railroad, then the owners of the property, but getting people to buy in on it, the citizens connected with all of the various issues, I think then you can focus on raising and appropriating and actually getting some grants for like the Heritage Trail parking lot. The Heritage, everybody knows what a Heritage Trail parking lot is? Okay, there's only one place in town where the town's Heritage Trail and the state Heritage Trail come together, and that's in the substation parking lot, which the town owns. Best kept secret in town, but it looks like a jungle. It's been totally ignored. I had one time, a couple years back, went in and cleaned it up, and I was working with the state geologist. They were cleaning that up because of the water level, street level, water level equipment. But we need to clean up that site, and it also, that site just begging for a second level for parking. Okay, so we put we have 19 spots there, but given the clearance you'd have to have for the co-op, you probably have 15 spots at street level. In looking at other programs of other cities and towns, you're not going to get economic development funds for parking garages. You're going to get economic development funds that include parking. So we need to show where the effect of our proper utilization of our infrastructure and a potential expansion of our types of businesses we have downtown that would include the need for a parking structure. But in order to do this systematically, because it's going to take several years just to do the administrative paperwork, to get it researched, get the appropriate data, and then I've said in my another report that we follow on is we need pictures to allow people to see what we're saying and understand where we're talking about. So I'd like to get the citizens. I've talked to a lot of citizens at Chase Street Market, and they're really excited about it, but a lot of times they're baffled because they don't know where I'm talking about. And then when I finally show them a picture, oh yeah, well, gee, that's really great. So I think to try to get the citizens, the business community involved with the need to upgrade, systematically upgrade our vehicular and pedestrian infrastructure in an orderly fashion would allow the capital improvement program, I think, to work better for the town and stay focused just on the village commercial zone for that.
So I think with a lot of the things that you and I've discussed over the last year, so to speak, and with regards to what you've presented here, is I think there's a few things that we do have in motion today, which is our road maintenance, sidewalk maintenance evaluation program that we're working on. Number two is we currently have a storm water management study being done.
Okay, good.
We received a grant last year, I believe. So Joseph Perez in the planning department, as well as the highway department, is working with a third-party vendor in completing those evaluations in the field. I think the next thing, and since we've spoken on this, is I've done a lot of work with New Hampshire Municipal Association and really looking at the hard road to travel and how we can move forward with regards to some of these things. Creating, I think the title of major street plan is a really tough one to adhere to. There is not another municipality in the state of New Hampshire that actually has a major street plan. The last one that was proposed was, I believe, in 1983 in the city of Concord, and it was taken to court and ruled against with regards to creating a major street plan. So I think we can title it something different.
Well, I use that title because that's the title of the RSA, and coming before this board, trying to stay within the confine, what the intent and purpose of that RSA was to do, our planning board and the master planning. But if there's another name for it, that would be,
Which I think we can definitely put together. I think the first thing is getting the list from the highway department on what all of our roadways, streets, and sidewalks are, and making sure that's completely updated, to,
And if we have some that have multiple names, that feels like something we
See,
should fix.
that's our problem, is our official listing of the highway department, the fire department, the police department, your counter detail downstairs and your tax map.
They don't all agree.
Don't agree. And then you have Google Map. And some of the errors, Google Map took the boundary lines of Holderness to Plymouth as land, developable land. So don't make a left turn on Green Street, because that's not, and they have street names that are not right. But that's a commercial connection. I've already talked to some business owners saying, hey, you're advertising your business using Google Map. You may want to talk to Google Map about updating the names of the street. But within the town itself, our department agencies that have their own street list, that's the thing we need to work administratively together.
and we can do that, and we can compare those lists that we have, and the select board actually has the authority to rename streets by two different means. They can rename a street in a meeting like we're having tonight.
Yeah.
Well, what most municipalities will do is they'll put a renaming of a street on the warrant article for the March town meeting. So my suggestion is, we really need to pull together all the different street lists and names that
Okay.
we have.
Yeah.
We need to come up with what the differences are between them
Correct.
and present that to the board to see if we want to take that to town meeting and get a name, so that we have single names for streets
correct.
and roads in the town of Plymouth.
That way we then can go with signage. That's the other thing we're missing on a lot of our streets is signs. So I already have that list of conflicts and the history. I researched the name of our streets all the way back to 1780. So I can show you what the rationale was for naming of the street, and I already have that worked up.
That's something that you can provide to me.
Okay, yes.
What I'll do is then pull together the names from the highway department. We'll look at the 911 addresses that the
Yeah.
fire department issues.
Correct.
And then we can come together and figure out what
What we
needs to
should
be
do.
changed.
Yes.
Yeah,
If that sounds like a plan.
for
That
sure.
sounds good to me.
For
So-
sure. And I'll tell you, the Google Maps changes, that's the easiest thing. That's
Yes.
It's very easy to
Correct,
make
yep.
those once we know what they are.
But like I say, when I looked up our tax map to our list and then the tax map to the counter detail, legal address, a tax map I think is getting a little old and needs to be updated. But, so that's, I have several of it now is, like I said, I use the RSA Master Street Plan because that's the name of the RSA, but if anybody has a suggestion for a different name of program, economic viability of Main Street, but I was trying to stay focused on the vehicular, our roads, streets and ways, which are not providing us a proper flow of traffic. And then obviously, once you park your vehicle and you want to go shopping, you need the proper, complete sidewalk, walkways, and crosswalks. And this is, I thought, would be most appropriate method to initiate a plan, a program of economic development. And I've also done a study and have got a paper written up for rezoning Village Commercial Zone, because the area from the courthouse south is all agriculturally zoned. There are no agricultural zone industries there, nor ever will be. If we make that all Village Commercial Zone, all the way to Parker Street, and keep it in line with the existing parameter of our west line of 250 feet west of Main Street as Village Commercial Zone, it's a perfect tie-in. And that would allow us, when you go forward for economic development under TIF district, you would then include the value of all of the items included in that area. And it would help us with a future development that was proposed in the Green Street plan and other plans from 20, 30, 40 years ago that we could then embrace and see about making proper utilization of our resources for business on Main Street. So that was my thoughts on trying to help the town, because I have an interest and I like doing this kind of research, and I can work with the town manager in providing research documentation, and then verifying the highway department, fire, and other departments on their proper design, utilization, and any laws, rules, regulations, codes, and standards that go along with the design of that. Obviously, we need to consider also with that. So,
Okay.
So what I'll do is get the list from you, and
Okay.
then we can start making a comparison of between the
So-
911 list, between the highway department's list,
Yep.
and between your list,
All right.
and we can move forward from there if that works.
yes,
Okay?
excellent.
Great.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Thank
Frank.
you, Frank.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
All right, let's plow through some committee reports. No Mary Ann, so we'll skip Village Water Sewer, Planning Board.
Planning board. Get my papers down. Okay, on September 19th, we had a planning board meeting. The first issue that we dealt with was the application of the Mountain Village Charter School, and that was continued until the November meeting. We then had an applicant, Brandon Hiltz, with a site plan review. We approved his application with conditions subject to stormwater and erosion control and topo elevations. We also recognized concerns about traffic and onto Beach Hill Road. His planned use for the property is a garage to maintain his construction equipment. He purchased the Avery Farm, I believe it's 78 acres on Beach Hill Road, and the property abuts the town of Campton. There's some concern about whether the town of Campton might be interested in this application because of the fact that it abuts their town. There were concerns about possible noise and fumes and speeders. Apparently, there's an ongoing concern about speeders and road conditions on Beach Hill Road. So we decided to have a site visit on October 17th at 5:30 PM, and any public are invited. And then following that site visit, we'll have our regular meeting at 6:30 PM at Town Hall. That motion passed. And October 3rd is going to be a work session. And that was the extent of our meeting, I believe.
Any questions for Neil? There was a clarification from the audience. You accepted an application and not approved.
We
Am I right about that?
let's see. We approved, okay, we accepted the application. We approved the acceptance of the application. How's that?
All right, well, Campus Community Council, we just had that this evening, so we're
Correct.
just flying past that, and we have some school district.
Plymouth Elementary School, I believe the next meeting is October 7th, according to the plan. Their website didn't detail that, but that's when it should be. Plymouth Regional High School is October 1st.
So no news but scheduling. Conservation Commission, heard a lot from them. Any additional stuff to add?
I do have my notes from the meeting last week. Basically, they had 2 guests come in from the community. They did detail the budget report. Some of the things that were talked about were the disposition of those funds. Specifically, they had a detailed breakdown of the general fund, special conservation fund, and capital reserve. Project updates, they talked about the Oxbow project and the natural resources inventory, which we heard about tonight. They want to focus on land conservation efforts. This consumed probably the majority of the meeting. Various properties, especially along the Baker River, they want to string things together to conserve contiguous blocks. One of them was mentioned was the Longview Farm. They were also talking about engaging with land trusts and stakeholders for various conservation initiatives. And then they detailed in the next section specifically ideas about increasing community awareness about invasive species, suggestions about putting out a social media campaign, creation of some little cards that they could hand out to folks with they visit and they notice, like, oh, I see that you've got this invasive species. Here's a card that details why this is a problem, why and how to clean it up. Specifically, I did recommend that they reach out for inclusion of some of this awareness campaign in Scott's weekly newsletter.
Great idea.
One of the things that I did note that, while we all know that the newsletter is there, there is no clear place on the web page where it says how to sign up for it.
Oh.
At least I couldn't find one. It wasn't obvious. So that would be a recommendation that I would put forward, that we put, if somebody wants to get in on Scott's newsletter, what do they have to do?
Just email us the information.
Yeah, well, but there is no place to go to. So we talk about the newsletter, but it doesn't say how to get on it.
Okay.
And that's my report from the Conservation Commission.
No news from capital improvement. LRPC?
We had a executive committee meeting a couple weeks ago, and Shanna Saunders, held the meeting, which she replaced the a new ED, and found out that John Christ is being appointed as at-large executive committee member. And there was a lot of discussion about household hazardous waste and the budget. we are a separate household hazardous waste. And I'm not sure if there's a savings there or not. I think there is by not going on to,
There is, definitely.
yeah. That's briefly it.
Speaking of hazardous waste, Scott, did you get any information from Recycling Center how it went for their collection day on Saturday?
They were very busy, and they filled the containers that they had. And they were there 8 to 1, I think, 8 to 12. There was some mistaken communications from the North Country Council that Plymouth Village Water and Sewer had on their website that it was running from 8 to 4, so it did lead to a little bit of confusion, but was straightened away, and Jim facilitated what he could with people coming in after those hours.
Excellent.
That's great. Parks and Rec?
No report.
No report for parking and economic development unless you have anything to note there, Scott? Other than
don't.
your report? Nothing? Okay. Energy Commission?
So, Phil, are you here for the Energy Commission? Or are you just like, enjoy these?
I'm just interloping.
So, Energy Commission had a lot that was on their plate. And I'm still not certain that the majority, to have like a majority, I don't think quite cuts it yet. I'll read, since you're here, I mean, the language that was finally developed for the PEC to describe quorum. And there's a modification that, and after looking at it, I don't think it's quite there. But anyway, they offered up, the commission will have a maximum of 7 members and may have up to 3 alternates. The commission shall have a simple majority of members present to constitute a quorum. And an alternate sitting in place of an absent member shall be deemed a member for the purposes of a quorum. A simple majority of members present is required for a motion to pass. So it just seems like it still doesn't describe, like, you know, how many members actually need to be present, or describe like a simple majority of the members present.
If I recall correctly, I think what was presented to the select board and approved, the language stated that the board would have up to a certain number of members, but must have 2 alternates. Where it, in my mind, the logic went that if you had 7 people as members, but no alternates, 2 of those members would be required to serve as alternates because there was must filled. The language that was approved required you to have 2 alternates.
Yeah.
So I think we discussed changing that to up to 2 alternates.
Yeah, up to 3 alternates. I'm still not certain that it's correct.
No, but I think when it comes to quorum, I mean, I think that there's an RSA that simply states that it's the minimum of a majority of members. And I think we just need to clarify that in the rules, which I'm not sure we've done yet, but
Yeah.
you know, a quorum is defined in the RSAs, and it doesn't make much sense. I think a board can be more rigorous, but I don't think it serves anyone's interest to do so.
Well, I'm just thinking of the number of boards that I've been on that, you know, quorum isn't like the simple majority. It basically, the quorum is a certain number, you know, that has to be hit.
But if you don't have enough members on your board,
Well, like a 7-member, if it's by what I said.
if there are 7 members and 2 open seats, you know, a simple majority is then 3. But if you have 7 and you require, you know, 4 to be present, then sometimes it's hard to have a quorum.
Anyway, I think that's to be discussed.
Well, that's when you have alternates.
Yeah, that's true, yeah, and that's exactly it. You know, if you don't have a
I
quorum.
don't know
then
why you have to have a limit on the number of alternates.
Right.
I agree. Anyway, I think that language should be like revisited. We have we'll have a new chair now, so. Phil was sworn in as a new member of the PEC. Thank you, Phil, for your volunteerism. And Grace was term limited, and she is now an alternate, and James stepped down. I got a lot of notes, and maybe I shouldn't, let's just like, Maggie Mumford's as vice chair, Ashley Saba is gonna be the chair as of October. Phil informed the PEC that Plymouth is applying for the Community Fueling Infrastructure CFI grant that would fund 4 level 2 charges at the Green Street lot.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
All these
So they got the money, but-
Teslas running around and they got no place to hook up.
One thing that was very interesting that I thought was very interesting, but Phil suggested that the PEC examine the square footage of town buildings and use EPA Portfolio Manager to create a profile for each building. And then the town can then measure energy used per square foot, normalizing energy usage. And then you get spot targets for energy saving measures. Let's call it.
Any questions for Bill?
I had a question. I noticed that the Ashland Dunkin' Donuts has a whole bank of charging units.
Yeah, that's Tesla.
I was wondering why the Plymouth Dunkin' Donuts doesn't have it.
Tesla put it in. It was Tesla's last.
Tesla decided to stop in Ashland?
Yes, it's a very important town, center of the state.
Yeah, it is.
I thought you were making a joke there for a minute.
Well,
Dunkin' Donuts
maybe.
has a whole,
Well,
sorry.
you're the one who picked up on it.
Donut hole.
But Rivian can also be used at Teslas, and I have Rivian stock, so I'd appreciate the.
Is there anything you can put in the thing to convert it so anything can plug into it?
Not
An
yet.
adapter.
Yeah, it's got to be some dark market item.
Good idea. Anything else for Energy Commission?
No.
Advisory Budget Committee, no news. PSU negotiations, not till-
Nothing,
We've been there.
nothing, no, this is a spring activity.
Yeah, next year. Chamber of Commerce, no Mary Ann. Perlac.
We have a meeting tomorrow night, and I think a report, and, we've got, again, certain things that are building to the top, like White Mountain Golf Club, and
Police and Fire Building, no,
Waiting on schematics and feasibility.
still waiting. Union negotiations, no
We
news.
have a meeting tomorrow with the
Yeah.
police at 8 a.m. and the fire department introductory meeting on September 30th at 8 a.m.
Meetings pending.
What time's Perlac? 6:30?
in the library.
Public comments.
You're all commented out, Frank?
Nothing from the
Thanks,
public.
Frank.
Public rests.
Continued service to the town, all of you.
Thank you.
We're getting ossified.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.